I need to know if you guys have seen John Q. The movie came out in 2002 by Denzel Washington. I was 13 years old and it radicalized me. Today we're talking about healthcare. I don't know if you saw this, but the first thing that I thought of when I read that the CEO, Brian Thompson of UnitedHealthcare Group, was fatally shot in New York City this morning was the movie John Q. That was the first thing I thought about, because healthcare is a human right. If you don't know the movie, long story short, his son needs a transplant, and before the ACA, which is also known as Obamacare, before the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies denied poor people life-saving treatment all the time. All the time. They did it all the time. If you're poor, oh well, fuck you. You die. They gotta buy yachts, right? So that was the first thing I thought about. And then right after that headline, I read that Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, in Connecticut, New York, and Missouri has decided that they get to determine how long you need to be in anesthesia. They will not be covering the full cost of anesthesia for surgeries any longer. They determine. Insurance determines how long the doctor gets to operate on you. And if they go over, you, me, we get the bill. Well, not me, because I don't have Anthem, but they get the bill. You guys voted for a guy who has no intention on replacing the ACA with anything that helps us. There's no intention of doing that. What he's going to do is bring us back to the Wild Wild West and also allow the regulations, the minor regulations we already have for insurance companies. He's going to allow them to deregulate that some more, just like he's going to do everything else. So when I read about Brian Thompson this morning, I thought about John Q. and about how vigilante justice for your kid who's dying is going to become common again. Fuck around and find out.
Oh, no, I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen nothing. Matter of fact, I'm blind in my left eye and 43% blind in my right eye. I don't see much of nothing. Matter of fact, I can't even see you, sir.
I'm gonna be that person. I'm sorry, but I just saw a picture of the UnitedHealthcare CEO gunman unmasked. And even though like it's kind of grainy, blurry, that man's like gorgeous. Like he's got a good ass smile. Hitman? Yeah, I'd let him. Like they haven't found him yet. There's still time.
You need to leave.
Sorry.
I personally think it's awful. Someone lost their life. Let's start there. And also, if we want to take a step back and look at this as a systemic issue, I read some comments about like people commenting thoughts and tariffs and having all kinds of, like F around and find out kind of comments. And I read this one comment that was like, what if he's a good guy? So this claim that you can be this amazing person and be doing these awful things like denying people healthcare, and these insurance companies actively try to cancel people's policies, we need to stop hiding behind I'm a good person. Whether you voted, however you voted, whether you're CEO, anyone can get got. Be a good person. Don't just try to...
Oh, how things have changed. Do you guys remember how Blue Cross Blue Shield was now going to charge for anesthesia if it went over a certain amount of time, like what they had said a surgery should take? The patient was then going to have to pay for the anesthesia, and this was only going to affect people in Connecticut, New York, and Missouri. It's like, okay, so who's going to decide? Now we're just going to have to pay the anesthesia, and they're saying that's going to lower healthcare costs. Well, today, the day after a CEO of UnitedHealthcare may have lost their life, they've decided to back away from that plan, and they're not going to implement that. And I'm just sitting here thinking, because I was already wondering if this woman, the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, was going to be a little bit worried. Is it a coincidence? Is there a reason that they said that it was widespread misinformation and that they were not going to be moving forward with that? I don't know. I'm thinking that's probably a good call. What do you think?
I see the picture they're trying to paint, y'all. Did y'all see this caption? United Healthcare CEO separated from wife at the time of Midtown Manhattan fatal shooting. And this is what she had said. She had happened to share, "I don't know details. I just know that he said there were some people that had been threatening him before his trip to New York." Basically telling the police like he had said he was receiving threats before this happened. But of course, other people are like, how convenient that they also happen to be separated. But that's neither here nor there until more comes out. Regardless, they released these photos of the person who supposedly did it. We obviously know it wasn't a random act. This dude had a silencer, got him from the back, got him from the front, got him from the side, it seemed like. Thing jammed and he kept going and then took off. They also released that allegedly he was under investigation by Department of Justice for insider trading before this happened. And if you didn't know yet, the bullets were customized. They were inscribed deny, defend, and depose. The ones that were used on him. What do y'all think happened? I don't think this is a case of a angry customer, someone who was denied. But, I don't know. What do y'all think?
If you're one of the people that are laughing that the United Healthcare CEO was brutally murdered in the streets, then you, my dear, should be following me and we should be friends because we have the same sense of humor and we are right here. Before you go, oh, well, Eva, he had a family. I don't care. I care that much. Nothing. I care nothing. You know why I care nothing? Because my grandfather just received his very last nurse visit. His very last nurse visit. Because his insurance is saying, yeah, you know what? People like him, they're not worth the care anymore. So they're dropping all of their elderly clients because they're just not worth the care anymore. The really messed up thing is that my grandfather is an American citizen. He paid his dues. He really did. He worked union his entire life. An honest man. He bought this entire house. This entire house, he bought it off of $10 an hour. Now he's 86 years old and the insurance is telling him, yeah, he's no longer worth it. And before you trumpets come in here talking about, well, he's not even president yet. He's president-elect. Everyone is getting ready for his presidency. Had he not been getting ready for presidency, these things would not be happening. These very rich CEOs, like United Healthcare, are feeling confident to make these changes now because nobody is going to stop them now that they have their best friend in office. And everybody's saying, oh, when Trump is president, things are going to get better. Where? Because all of his little CEO friends heard that he's going to be president. Now he's president-elect. Now they're starting to make cuts. They're starting to get rid of us, right? But you voted for that, right? But you voted for that. Now we all have to sit here and fuck around and find out with you. When we knew better. We knew better. But you didn't want to vote for a female of color president. This is why I stand on business when it comes down to if you voted for him, see yourself out of my presence. Because this is not an agree to disagree type thing. This is either you have morals and you have integrity or you do not. And maggots, you do not.
The United Healthcare CEO dying is tragic and horrible. In fact, let's take a look at some of the other horrible things that have happened to people. Last year, 2 elderly people insured by United died. They were denied life-saving coverage by United because the company used an AI model with a 90% error rate to determine the claim. A college student insured by United racked up $2 million in medical debt to treat a severe medical issue. He said the company intentionally ignored a report that said this treatment was medically necessary. A man's $140,000 heart surgery wasn't covered by United at all because they said that he used a type of injection that wasn't medically necessary. He didn't even use it. Patients recovering from strokes and falls, often elderly, were denied nursing care from United and were often only covered for half the time needed to recover. Now, United's claim denial rate is one of the highest in the industry at 32%. An insurance company's biggest expense is what it pays out in claims. If it denies more claims, it pays out less, and then it gets to keep more profits. Now keep that in mind when I tell you that United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is one of the highest paid CEOs in the industry, taking home about $10 million last year. So it is sad that this poor man cannot spend his $10 million. Sad that a man who achieved the American dream by causing thousands of Americans to die each year from preventable causes because of a lack of health insurance coverage, it's sad that he got shot. What does that say about society? That nobody who makes money off of people dying is safe anymore? If we want change, we must nicely ask for it. Just like when we nicely ask for health coverage and it gets denied. On a serious note, it is morally wrong to celebrate the death of someone, but we also have a moral responsibility with our one life on this earth to look out for each other and to care for each other. If someone doesn't do that and they lose their life,
Defend, deny, and depose. Last year, my dad was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. They did a surgery. They had his thyroid removed. Well, his levels were not improving, and they found out that he had a rare autoimmune disease, myasthenia gravis. Therefore, they had to remove his thymus out of his chest. So they did open chest surgery, and they removed his thymus. He was released from the hospital 24 hours after that surgery. And while he was at home resting, he came to my mom and said, "Do my eyes look yellow?" And she said, "Absolutely they do." And they immediately went back to the emergency room at the hospital where my dad had the surgery to remove his thymus. Those doctors were like, "Whoa, we don't know what's going on." He was there for a week, deteriorating away for a week. His liver numbers were getting worse as the week went on, and they finally said, "We don't know what's going on, but your liver is failing. We're going to cart you off to the Mayo Clinic because they're better suited to handle you." They basically painted the Mayo Clinic out to be like the Wizard of Oz's home, okay? So they send my dad off on a dream to the Mayo Clinic, and he gets to the Mayo Clinic. They run hundreds of thousands of tests, and they determined that my dad got autoimmune hepatitis from a medication that he received in the anesthesia from the surgery when they removed his thymus. And so they told my dad, they sold him another dream telling him, "We're going to get you a liver transplant. You are going to make it. We're going to get this liver transplant. You just have to jump through 975,000 hoops before we can get that liver transplant. But we're going to get you the liver transplant," as my dad is deteriorating. So he's in the hospital, right? He's eating the hospital food. And as he's eating the hospital food, guess what? My dad gets E. coli from the hospital food, okay? So my dad now cannot keep any food down. He is deteriorating away because his liver is failing. He has a compromised immune system because he doesn't have a thyroid. He has this rare autoimmune disease. So my dad is doing horrible. He's losing weight at a very rapid pace. They send my dad home. They send my dad home and tell him to try all these different weird diets, but the liver doctor would not allow my dad to have a Z-Pack. He would not let my dad have a Z-Pack because he said that the liver would not be able to deal with the medication coming through it. It couldn't dissolve the medication or whatever. So my dad continued to deteriorate. It got so bad. My dad was throwing up all the time. He could barely walk. He then started to be filled with fluid in his body. Again, the doctors are doing nothing. They keep telling my dad, "It's okay, just hang on." They're pumping him with so much medication, you wouldn't even believe how many medications he's on. And my dad's mental state started to deteriorate. My dad could not make decisions for himself anymore. My dad was hiding under blankets, trying to gather himself because his mental state was deteriorating. All the while, they could not do anything. So they kept promising him, "We're going to get you on this liver transplant list. You just need to get stronger. We just need you to get stronger." They give him a feeding tube. His body is rejecting the feeding tube and the things inside of the feeding tube. Then they take my dad out for a walk one day. They're trying to get my dad out of the bed after they were able to finally get the pounds of fluid out of his body. They tell my dad, "Come on, you just need to go on a walk." My dad falls on the walk with the nurse in the hospital. My dad falls, and that was it for my dad. My dad could not do it anymore. So they had a meeting the next day. My dad was holding out hope because the liver doctor kept promising my dad, even in this horrible state, that they were going to find a way to get him on that liver transplant list. And because he was so close to dying, because his liver was failing so bad, he would be at the top of the list. The doctor continued to promise this over and over and over. So they did all of these meetings, and I get a notification on my phone that my dad's liver transplant was denied. They denied the liver transplant because they said my dad was not strong enough. And at that moment, my dad gave up. He could no longer be mentally tortured. He was stuck in a hospital throughout the entire holidays alone, 85-90% of the time. And he had no help. I sat on the phone with doctors who were like, "Well, he's refusing his medication, so there's really nothing that we could do. He doesn't want to take the medication." He was taking over 50 medications. These executives, these doctors, these corporations, they don't care about their patients. They don't care what happens to their patients. They don't care. They don't care. This whole situation of what happened with this CEO of United Healthcare has really triggered me, because I have been the person advocating for their family member to get the help that they need, and them not getting the help and my dad ending up dead. In a month from now, it'll be a year since my dad has been gone. I don't wish ill on anyone, but these corporations don't care about people. They only care about money. Defend, deny, and depose.